This is music, and these are some first impressions. So welcome to another first impressions video in which I follow up on the two first videos on this channel, which were haul videos full of blind buys. So I'm currently chewing my way through all of these blind buys, a lot of CDs, a couple of vinyls as well. And I'm sort of following up, posting some videos, just presenting my first impressions upon listening to a lot of these blind buys, typically just for the first, after the first listen, sometimes after a couple of listens. Today, I have 5 releases that I managed to listen to, and it's pretty much hard rock, all of it, with one exception. And it's different styles of hard rock. So the first one is this one here, Freak Kitchen Appetizer. It's out on Thunderstruck Productions, I think it is, and it's from some point in the 90s. Let's see if we can see it here. Yeah, 94. And that's certainly something you can hear in this album. It sounds very 90s. It's groovy hard rock. Freak Kitchen are often described as a progressive metal band. I think that's in their later discography. This is hard rock, 90s hard rock with lots of heavy groovy guitar parts, which I like. I really like that. It's a really good album. Sort of the band leader is Mattias Eklund. It's a Swedish band, if I didn't mention that. And he's a bit of a guitar virtuoso. Really great solos, a lot of technical solos. He really shows off his chops, but he's also very good at, the rhythm part, right? So he knows both of those aspects of being a rock guitarist. So I really appreciate that. I would say pretty much all the songs are very good in this album. I think Live Freedom might be my favorite right now. Some Kind of Love Song is a ballad which kind of makes fun of itself, I guess, so I can appreciate that. There's a song called The Healthy Man, which is kind of fun, kind of makes fun of alternative health nuts. So Freak Kitchen Appetizer, I think it's a great 90s sounding hard rock album. Some great riffage. The next one here is sort of the odd man out. That's Diabolic, Infinity Through Purification from 2003. This is death metal. This is fierce death metal that just pummels you with blast beat section after blast beat section after blast beat section. So there are definitely some sort of brutal death metal elements, although I would not call it brutal death metal. The blast beats many of them are sort of in the Mike Smith, suffocation type of blast beat. And I mean, it's to the point that maybe it's perhaps almost too much for some people. I mean, I really like blast beats because when you sort of just go, full speed ahead on a blast beat, and then you throw in a groovy, heavy section or a doomy section or a mid-tempo section that creates a very good dynamic. And they certainly do that on this album. They just use a lot of blast beat sections. But when they do break into a heavier section or a mid-tempo section, that really works, right? And it has song titles that are almost like more like like 90s, late 90s death metal-ish song titles, really long song titles like From the Astral Plane, Entwined with Infinity, There's a song called Internal Mental Cannibalism. There is Procession of the Soul Grinders. There is Descending Through Portals of Misery. Fierce death metal. They sometimes do some weird things, which I think is pretty cool. So they break away from the sort of mold occasionally. Certainly high level of musicianship. So aggressive, pummeling death metal with lots of sort of suffocation style blast beats. This is not something that you just, you know, listen to as background music, or basically something you just have as background music. This is stuff you need to sit down and listen to appreciate. Diabolic, Infinity Through Purification. Also, pretty cool artwork. Okay, so that was the odd man out. Here we have sort of back to the world of hard rock, Dee Snider of Twisted Sister fame. Never Let the Bastards Wear You Down. This album is... I heard a lot of bad things about it, but I took a chance on it anyways. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's great either. There's some good stuff on it, but there's also a lot of stuff that's a bit, you know, meh, right? The opening track, Hardcore, I think is pretty cool. And I also think the closing track, Right Through the Storm, is pretty cool. They're both like, you know, all-out heavy metal songs. But there's a lot of more like rock and roll-y stuff in this, which is fine. There's a version of The Wanderer, for example. And there's some original songs as well that are more rock and roll-y. But a lot of it doesn't. It's kind of fun, but it doesn't really sort of rock my world. But there are some good songs on it for sure. So Dee Snider, Never Let the Bastards Wear You Down. More rock and roll-y hard rock with a couple of good songs, but for the most part, in my opinion, it's in the middle of the road. This is going to be one of these albums where I probably won't listen to it from beginning to end, but you know, I'll listen to a couple of songs and enjoy those. The next one is this one here, Broken Blue. And this, I don't even remember if I picked this one. Yeah, this was one of the albums I picked up physically in a record store. And it was under the heavy metal section. And it's hard rock. Certainly there are some heavy metal elements to it, but it's melodic hard rock. It's from 2005, by the way. The Waiting by Broken Blue. It's out on Steam. Steam Hammer, right? SPV. I think that's Steam Hammer. Suddenly I forgot, but you guys probably know. Melodic hard rock with a lot of AOR influences as well. I mean, I personally would not place this under the heavy metal section, but we know there's an overlap between hard rock and heavy metal. I think hard rock is part of the metal universe. And then, of course, when you have like melodic AOR music, there's an overlap between that and hard rock. So I sort of see the point, right? There's some pretty good songs on this. I think Rivers Are Calling is a pretty good upbeat hard rock song. How Does It Feel? The opening track is also pretty good. There are a couple of ballads here on it, and I'm not a big fan of ballads. If they're really, really good, right, then I enjoy them. But for the most part, even if they are good ballads, I tend to skip them. There are there are a couple of ballads on this album. Lots of melody, pop rock elements, even. And it's like a mix. The vocals are a mix of male and female vocals. They have, I don't know if you can see it here. They have like, it's a bit grainy. They have a female singer and a male singer, and the two other members take care of all the instrumentation. So, I mean, there are parts that are almost Eurovision-like, you know, the least cheesy, crappy Eurovision songs, because I hate Eurovision. There's some songs that sound like they remind me a bit of Danish pop rock from the 80s, so you could add, I don't know how many of you guys know these singers, like you could take Sanne Salomonsen or Lis Sørensen. Those were like big pop rock singers in Denmark in the 80s. You could have them sing and it would sound like something from that era. So it's a pretty enjoyable melodic hard rock album with soft rock tendencies and AOR tendencies. Enjoyable. It's probably also going to be an album that I won't listen to beginning to end very often, but pick out a couple of songs to enjoy every now and then. But it's a good album, very well produced, lots of melody, I would say. So Broken Blue, The Waiting from 2005. And the last one I managed to listen to, I basically just finished listening to it right now, is this one here, Craaft, self-titled, I think. Yeah, Craaft. This is the front. This is the back. They look very much alike, apart from this dude wearing sunglasses here. This is a German 80s hard rock band. This one is from 1986. So whereas, see if I can sort of juggle things here. Whereas this one sort of retrospectively looks back to 80s hard rock, you know, AOR hard rock. This one here is 80s hard rock with lots of AOR tendencies. And to be honest, I think it's really, really good. I do have a weakness for 80s AOR and 80s rock and 80s hard rock because of the nostalgia factor. That's when I was a kid, right? This has all the good stuff from 80s AOR. It has a very, very pristine and polished production. It has the melodic guitar riffs. It has the sort of chugging guitar riffs. It has the synth bursts, the keyboard bursts. It has the big drum sound. It has the catchy melodic choruses and the harmonic vocals and all that stuff. I really enjoyed this album. Uplifting 80s AOR hard rock. The two sort of weak points on this album are You're the Best Thing in My Life on side A. That's a ballad. It's a power ballad. And Now That You're Gone on side B, which is another power ballad. So You're the Best Thing in My Life on side A, power ballad. Now That You're Gone, power ballad on side B. And the rest of the songs are upbeat, fun, catchy, 80s AOR hard rock. And these power ballads kind of break the fun, upbeat energy. I think that's why I don't like him, although they're by no means bad or terrible power ballads. I would say if you've heard the soundtrack to Rocky IV, there are two soundtracks to Rocky IV. By the way, there is a sort of a synth score by Vince DiCola, which has some really, really cool stuff too. And then there's another one which is mainly 80s AOR melodic rock. If you like that soundtrack, chances are you'll like this album. If you just like 80s rock in general, chances are you'll like this album. I enjoyed this album very much. So that was another round of first impressions, mostly hard rock, but also one fierce, blast beat, rich death metal release. So I hope you enjoyed watching me just talk about my first impressions of these blind buys. Thanks for watching.